Hi there, this is Billy Earl, and we are on Eastern Shore Politics. We have one of our favorite guests, Robert Taylor, is here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the current state of the density kerfuffle, as some would call it, here in downtown Salisbury. Bob, thanks for coming by. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I understand that legal action is pending on this matter.
Yeah, well, it was announced at the council meeting this week on Monday night when they voted to override Mayor Taylor's veto of the ordinance that would change the density, maximum density in downtown area, the CBD, up to 80 units. It would double it from 40. He vetoed that and they overrode it. And Holly Worthington, property owner downtown, has indicated she's going to be filing litigation. I don't know that it involves the ordinance. It may involve perhaps the contract and the disposition of the land, which has in it, it's not just a simple contract like most real estate contracts and you buy a house, it's here's the money, here's the deed, see you later, This has a lot of obligations in it on the city, including funding a parking garage.
Right.
So there's a lot of bells and whistles on this, including the fact that it purports to be an amendment of an agreement that the city made to sell two lots, 1 and 11, back in 2015 to a group known as Devreco LLC.
Yeah.
They're affiliated with the Gilkerson firm.
Yeah.
That never went to closing. And yet in 2023, the agreement happens to be with a different firm, not with Devreco. It's not only for those two lots I just mentioned, 1 and 11, but also lot 15. That got thrown in.
Okay.
Now, in between, in the period of time there, part of lot 1, that's the real big parking lot behind the plaza, where part of it is now Unity Square.
Yeah.
That part that's Unity Square, that's about 4/10 of an acre, or maybe 17,000 square feet, something like that. That was originally part of Lot 1 in the 2015 deal to be sold to Devreco. Of course, that's now come out.
Yes.
And then they added in, and there seems to be some ground to say this, that was essentially you don't have that land anymore, lot up where Unity Square is, up on Division Street, but we're going to throw in Lot 15, which is about the same size.
Okay.
So the total acreage that they were, getting would not be disturbed. So there are a lot of aspects of this contract that make you scratch your head. How is it an amendment when it's not the same party? The contract that it is purporting to amend expired, and it includes other property. I mean, go figure. So that's kind of I think a rough overview of where this may be going in litigation. And I've heard rumors, just kind of street talk, that there may be some other property owners who have some other gripes, not involving this issue I've just been describing, but I think how it affects their property with this density increase, because the density increase does not include just those 3 lots.
Oh, it's larger.
It's the entire central business district, which is all of, I consider downtown Salisbury to be more or less a rectangle, not quite. Well, you've got two highways, 13 and 50. I still call them that, even though they're now relocated. And you've got 2 prongs of the river.
Yeah.
And they come together right at what would be the southwest corner of that rectangle.
Okay.
And now there is land beyond that. There's land over on Fitzwater Street, when you go across that prong, that's the north prong. And then there's land on Carroll Street that's also in the CBD. And there's a little land on Riverside Drive coming off of the cul-de-sac, heading up towards the Catholic Church. It's primarily on the riverside. So that's the CBD. It's all of that area. I just did a rough calculation of some of the larger undeveloped lots, including the parking lots that the city has sold.
Okay.
And I get an potential increase of about 500 units, just from the 40 to 80. Doesn't mean they're going to be built.
Right.
It means theoretically, but that's how I think you would have to evaluate this from a planning perspective. Never happened before the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Right.
There was never any. They had hours of meetings and testimonies, but then they decided it like that.
Mm-hmm.
A pre-scripted resolution without much discussion, in fact, almost none.
Yeah.
One of the members wanted to postpone it and have discussion,
Yeah.
but that never got out of the ground.
Never got a second.
So that's, kind of where we've gotten to where we've gotten.
Well, it also has taken on kind of a patina of personal relations between some of the members of the council and the mayor's office. The not allowing the mayor to address this group the other night, I think shook a lot of people in that it just didn't seem fair. It didn't seem correct.
I think that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
and to me, President Dowdy, all he had to do was let the mayor speak.
Yeah.
And that would have been the end of it.
It
It
needed no further comment.
It probably wasn't going to change anybody's mind.
No.
But instead he tried to make a big issue out of it.
Petulant is a word that has come
right.
up.
Well, I've heard arrogance, but
That one too.
yeah.
Well, that's part one. Part two is the lack of information from the various members on the council as to why they voted in this manner. It's been vexing to a lot of people who want to know, why is it that you are wanting to do this?
Yeah, I might just interrupt just for a second, just say I was a party to the case that before they went for this density change, they tried to get a density increase by special exception. And I was part of the group that challenged that in court. The Board of Appeals turned them down.
Yeah.
And the concern was the effect on the surrounding properties. They, meaning Salisbury Town Center Apartments, then appealed that to the circuit court, which you
Right.
can do. We challenged that in the circuit court, and it got thrown out. And I was one of the plaintiffs in that, or not plaintiffs, but one of the respondents.
Yeah.
I wasn't the attorney. I didn't act as the attorney for the
Okay.
group. I helped the attorney some, but
Yeah.
in any event, I just want to make that clear. Don't want to be cogent about that. But yeah, this is a mess to me.
Hot mess.
Yeah. There's been no real consideration of what is, I think, the big issue here, and that's the parking.
Yeah.
And this is a big issue for a couple reasons. First of all, in that rectangle area I just mentioned, there's very little room once these parking lots are developed. They've sold all of the major parking lots, including Lot 10, which is up at the corner where 50 and 13 meet. That's been sold for development. So once this happens, that parking is no longer there. And by developing it, creates more parking demand. So you've eliminated parking and you've created more parking demand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in 2018, the city council, and this was primarily at the instance of Jake Day, did away with a parking requirement in the downtown CBD.
That's interesting.
Before, you had to have, for residential units, it was based on the bedrooms. As the number of bedrooms went up, the number of parking spaces you had to have went up. That was removed. So right now, there's no requirement.
Was there ever any explanation as to why removal of that was a good idea?
I wasn't attuned to it at the time.
Yeah.
At the time, I was the county council's attorney,
Uh-huh.
paying more attention to that stuff.
Right.
And that one just kind of snuck through on me. I mean, it's bizarre. I don't know of any place that doesn't have some sort of a parking requirement.
Yeah.
And by parking requirement, I mean on site.
Yeah.
For example, for apartment complex for the tenants, or in single-family homes or condo for the owners or residents if they rent them out. And I'm just not aware of that. Now, there may be some places. I mean, I don't know about New York City, but this ain't New York City or anything
No.
close. But some places, I'm told, have a deal where the property owners in a certain district have to pay a parking tax, and then the government uses that to maintain public parking.
Right.
But it's being paid for by essentially the property owners And they, of course, would then pass it on, if it's rental property, to their tenants. But we don't have that. We actually did have at one time, many years ago, we did have a city parking district tax. As I recall, that was because when they initially built the parking garage, they bonded it, and there were bond payments due.
Okay.
And it wasn't, the idea was it was supposed to be either free or very low-cost parking to compete with the mall.
Okay, that would
free
make
parking.
sense.
So the only way to pay the bonds off was to get some revenue some other way.
Yeah.
But the merchants at that time went gangbusters against it.
Okay.
It was based to a very large extent on what your draw was. I was in a law office. We didn't have a lot of draw.
Yeah.
We had a few people come in now and then for a settlement or something.
Yeah.
But we didn't open
Not a lot
at
of
9
foot
o'clock.
traffic.
And, people were coming in to buy stuff. It
Yeah.
wasn't that kind of a business. So anyway, that's, kind of a long and short look at parking and density. But the problem is we've done away with this requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we're now doing away with the open parking lots. And on top of that, we're adding
More people.
Yeah. Now, there have been these studies over the years. I think all of them were done before 2018, which is when the parking requirement was cut. I know they were all done before the university announced that they want to, at the existing library,
Yes.
take that and convert it in and be new construction, I'm sure. A performing arts center with, I've heard, up to 1,000 seat auditorium. And maybe it won't be, I've heard, no, it's not going to be that big. We don't really know. I know in the initial announcement that the university made about a year ago, it says 1,000 seat. So, that's all I can tell you.
And theoretically, that has a highly detrimental effect on parking, because where are those people going to park?
Yeah, I mean, just to flush this out a little bit more, when they built the Ross, that's the 350-some bed so-called student housing, although there are a lot
That's
of
an interesting question, what that is.
But they did a deal with the city for special dibs on parking at the garage.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's almost 300 spots in the garage. Well, the whole garage is about 700. So as that fills up, that's going to create a demand.
Right.
And then we have all of this vacant space downtown. Plus, the county is now moving the health department building on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be moved out to the Verizon building on Route 50 in a couple years. And they're going to be done with it. They're not going to use it for anything else. So who knows what's going to happen there? My guess would be sooner or later it's probably going to be it's either going to be rehab for something, or it's going to be torn down and built into another 4 or 5 story, possibly apartment building.
Okay.
Again, as things now stand, no on-site. They're going to park in the parking garage. So start adding this up. Lot 16, which is on the prong of the river near the parking garage, but not directly across.
Yeah.
That's about 50 spaces. That's been sold for development. Where are those people going to park? I would assume in the parking garage, by and large. That's the nearest.
Theoretically.
Those people there work in that general area on that side of Division Street. So, as these things happen, this parking is going to disappear. We can't see it now because these lots that have been sold are still being used for parking.
Yeah.
They haven't been closed.
But that day's coming.
So that's right. That day's coming. And we're just going to have to wait and see.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Robert, for another concise and illuminating viewpoint of our management of our little town. Anyway, this has been Billy Earl here with Robert Taylor on Eastern Shore Politics, and my lovely wife Linda's right over there. Thank you for tuning in, and you can find us on YouTube also. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.